dogs.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabria, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. I'm Saeed Khan, and of course, it has been yet another busy week, both locally, actually not just both, but locally, nationally, and internationally. And joining us to go ahead and review the Week in Review, we have Public Relations Specialist Beverly Watts. We have two of our three esteemed lawyers, Joel Sklar and Bill Seikaly, labor and community activist Barb Ingalls, veteran journalist Nancy Derringer, and of course, we have our co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. So I think before we start with what we had in mind, because news is always breaking, it seems as though the president has it out for those who are simply looking at following the military code of conduct and the Constitution. 6 Democratic lawmakers had issued a video reminding those serving in the military that they should not and do not need to obey illegal orders. That got the president of the United States angry on his social media, saying that this is sedition, calling for these people to, in fact, incur the death penalty. Mm-hmm. There has been some walk back from pusillanimous House speakers like Mike Johnson, blaming it on the video itself. But of course, Press Secretary Caroline Levitt says by misrepresentation that they were actually telling people to disobey legal orders. Here we are now on the 20th of November in still year one of the second term of the Trump presidency. What say you about this latest kerfuffle, Joel?
This is like Stephen Miller's presidency. This is all him. And this, Trump doesn't know sedition from shit. This is all Stephen Miller. And this is why I'm begging the media, focus on Miller. Let him talk to people, bring him on CNN, bring him every place. The guy is vile in every sense. He loses his mind. He is, he's out of control. And when people see him, when I see him, I think when reasonable people see him, they're going to say, my God, this guy is an asshole and he's nuts. But he is the president. He is making policy. He's doing the immigration, domestic policy is Stephen Miller.
And Trump is thinking about the ballroom and where he can fit another gold, Home Depot tchotchke in the Oval Office.
Yeah,
but I think you're absolutely right. Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance, I think he's taken over. I wouldn't call this his presidency, but he's deputized a huge chunk of it, and I think you're right about that.
Well, as Elaine Bennis would say on Seinfeld, does that mean that he's Trump's Sven Jolly?
That's why Terry Moran on ABC News couldn't take it anymore. It just came out and said this guy's shit, and he got fired for it. But I think he thought it was worth it. I think he couldn't stand silent anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you see this phenomenon happening with the president, even on Air Force One, seemingly having something. Hey, and we're joined by Stephen Miller, so the troika of lawyers is complete.
That's Stephen Fishman.
Oh my goodness.
Stephen Miller? Stephen Miller?
Steve Fishman, sorry. What did I say?
What you talking about?
God, you cannot insult him more.
That's
Your Honor on this one, which
sorry.
Bad Jew. Good Jew.
Sorry, Fish. It was just bad timing. I swear. but from the so let's look at the president's recent trysts with ABC News. Notwithstanding that Jimmy Kimmel is on ABC and he's constantly calling for him to be fired. On board Air Force One, the president snaps back at an ABC reporter telling her, quote unquote, quiet piggy, And then in the Oval Office, while sitting with Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, an ABC reporter asks a question, and the president not only chastises her for being at a fake news outlet, but then goes on and says that Jamal Khashoggi, who Trump's own CIA determined back in the first administration that MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, authorized the murder of Jamal Khashoggi in a rather gruesome way in October of 2018 in a Saudi consulate in Istanbul, said that that this guy was controversial and giving a pass to MBS, and in fact, shielding him from even having to answer the question, saying you're being rude to our guest. So is this all being orchestrated by Stephen Miller, not Fishman, or is it in part due to the president's purported cognitive decline?
I think it's a little bit of both. Yeah. I think it's funny. There was a picture of Stephen Miller. He was doing a stand-up with some reporter during, I believe, did they have a state dinner for Saudi Arabia, or was it just...
No, they could not have a state dinner because he's not technically head of state. He's just the crown prince.
Okay,
but that did not preclude Melania from wearing a shimmering Saudi green gown.
Yes, I saw Melania.
Beautiful.
And remember, Nancy, the ballroom isn't ready yet.
Yeah, the ballroom isn't ready yet, and Melania is starting to look like she's really... Like if she has another, as the girls on Absolutely Fabulous once said, if she has another facelift, she's going to be wearing a beard. But
I think she's competing. I think she's competing with Sri Tanadar in the embalmed Olympics.
Exactly.
But
anyway, there was a picture of Stephen Miller was doing a stand-up, and he was almost recognizable because he was smiling. He was beaming. You know, he had this big bright smile on his face. And I think it's like there's something about the presence of all that evil in one room that just makes his black little soul just, sparkle and flare up and causes him to smile. So I don't know. I think he's got a lot to do with that.
While I hate Trump beyond words, I'm not ready to say that this is cognitive decline. I think this is evil. I think he's evil. I think that everything we're talking about are things that he feels and he believes. I think he wishes that he could do those things to reporters.
Yep.
And is kind of is empathetic to the crown prince. Yeah. I think that he's just taking the gloves off. We're worried about him running again in 2028. I don't think we have to worry about that so much anymore because just this last year has seemed like 4 years to me. Yeah. So it seems that he's going to have 16 years in just these 4, the way things are going. I think that Miller is where he is because Trump wants him there.
Absolutely.
I have a question for Bill. Are we going to start like we often refer to like dog years? How many in dog years? Are we going to say how many in Trump years?
Yeah, I mean, does anybody else feel that way? I cannot believe that it hasn't been a year yet.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
I know.
Yeah,
it's forever.
It really is.
I think the thing that's is outrageous. I have to get Mary Bruce from ABC. She really stuck it to the crown prince, and she stuck it to Trump. I was so proud of journalists at that point. What I really gets me angry is like when he turns to a woman and calls her piggy. That people aren't standing up and
hot kettle. Yeah.
When she asks a question and he answers by, shut up, piggy, Miss Piggy or whatever, the next reporter should say, I want that question answered. And people should be standing up. Yeah. We saw before Dan Rathers, Sam Donaldson, or they would stand up to the president. And we have to have people. I mean, the CNN guy is gone. People who have stood up, that people have to stand up. We can't allow this in a free society to have this guy just try to manhandle the reporters like he's doing.
Yeah. Alan, in my opinion, it's even worse than that. It's not that they're not standing up. It's the fact that the coverage on this has not been what you would have expected it to be. You would have expected that Miss Piggy tape to be on every newscast. It wasn't.
No, I can tell you, Bill, you're absolutely right. Because had Barack Obama said something like that, oh my God.
Look at what happened when he wore a beige suit, for God's sakes.
Yes.
That's a beige suit.
Yes.
Not the first time he called a woman piggy either. He called a Miss Universe, I think. Because, of course, they are.
O'Donnell.
Rosie O'Donnell. I mean, he uses that a lot. But I don't understand. I think that the Washington press corps, and I think they're more afraid of losing their access.
They're afraid of getting kicked off Air Force One. They're afraid of losing their seat in the White House. And you know what? You don't get a lot of shit from there anyways. You know, you really have to do the reporting. You have to go out to the bars and drink with people and go to lunches and go to social gatherings. You don't get shit on Air Force One and all that stuff. So
now we know why Allan wanted to be a reporter when he grew up.
You missed the perks, Allan.
Come on, Allan. If you could have gotten one of those Air Force One decks of cards or a coaster, I mean, that would be on the wall. That would be on the wall of stuff behind you. Well, when it comes to finding out what is going on in Washington, one of the places that probably we could look is the Epstein files. And this week, the president seems to have finally yielded to not just a little bit of pushback from within his own party, getting then the House to vote on it, which they did. One person, Clay Higgins, is the lone holdout and somebody who prevented it from being a unanimous consent in the House, but it was a unanimous consent in the Senate, and it looks like the president has gone ahead and signed this bill to allow for the release of the Epstein files, with, of course, the caveat whether the Department of Justice will go crazy with the Sharpie pens, but yet at the same time, a caveat back to Attorney General Pam Bondi that she should not go ahead and redact too much from those. Where are we going with the Epstein files, and will we have any of them in our stockings this Christmas?
Let's do a video. We've got some videos here.
Reverend Sheffield.
I am sorry.
The same guy who is now claiming he told the House and the Senate to pass a bill to release the Epstein files also claimed not long ago that those same files were fake.
These files were made up by Comey. They were made up by Obama.
Just pick one of them as having written the fake Epstein files, because I find it hard to believe that whole group could work together. Now, Joe and I will start working on the fake files. Comey, Hillary, why don't you do the fake emails? I'm gonna fake a birthday card from Trump to Epstein. Gonna be a drawing of a naked lady. I'm gonna make the signature look like pubic hair. I do think it's worth pointing out that none of those people were in office when Epstein was arrested and his files were seized. You know who was in office? You were. You want us to believe that Hillary, Obama, and Biden snuck into the DOJ while everyone was asleep and put your name in a bunch of documents. For one thing, Biden's not that slick. If the files were up one flight of stairs, toast.
The other one?
Sure.
He wants every channel to be Newsmax. And this Newsmax, they are funny, man. They rallied around Dear Misleader, defending him against this preposterous idea that I would in any way connect him to the Epstein files. I want to listen to Kimmel's words on this, because what he said was in jest, but it wasn't. We finally get to find out if the president is linked to this. There are 50,000 documents. If there was something with the president, wouldn't we have seen it by now?
Absolutely. I mean, we had a very contentious election last year, and most certainly they would have diverged this information to the American public.
I think we just diverged from the English language. The word is divulge, FYI. I think this lady went to the same law school as Kim Kardashian. Amanda Maki is her name. She might not be much of a lawyer, but I will say this. She has quite an eye for interior design.
Well, I don't know if she went to the same law school as Kim Kardashian, but maybe, just maybe, she went to the same law school as the prosecutor in the James Comey case, because the federal judge has castigated DOJ prosecutors in the case that has been brought against former FBI Director James Comey regarding the grand jury indictment. So, our esteemed troika of lawyers, go for it. What does this all mean? Is it procedural? Is it substantive? Steve?
Well, is it procedural? Everything is procedural to a point, but of course it's substantive. It's substantive on any number of grounds. And the most fascinating thing, and I just happened to see this on television, the lady Carol, I don't pronounce her last name properly, from the New York Times that wrote the
Carol
Lenig or something like that.
Carol,
she was being interviewed by my girlfriend Nicole Wallace, and she had talked to people who were inside the courtroom at the time, and they said it was one of the most bizarre courtroom experiences they had ever watched. And why was that? Number one, you have to remember they brought two people from North Carolina. Nobody, not one assistant U.S. attorney in the Virginia office would proceed with that indictment after Eric Siebert and his group had turned it down. They bring these two people in, and then they tell the guy in particular to refuse to answer the question from the judge as to whether or not there was a memo that accompanied the denial of proceeding to indictment. There's a memo in every denial from proceeding to indictment, because obviously in the U.S. Attorney's Office, you're not always going to be there forever. They want to show, why did we do what we do? He refused to answer that question to begin with, whereupon the judge basically was starting to think, it sounded like to me, that maybe the contempt of court is going to apply here. And then the lady, Lindsay, whatever her name is,
Halligan,
the way she behaved, according to the way it was described on the show, she's behaving like Trump behaves. She was kind of shrugging off the judge and this and that and the other. And the judge, of course, was getting a little more and more irritated. I believe personally, I think that the memo exists. I don't know if they're going to be smart enough to turn it over. I think if they don't turn it over or do turn it over, I think this judge is throwing this case out.
Yep.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
And the
And
question
I'm not a lawyer though. So.
is it thrown out? Can they refile, or is it
would expire?
Right.
Well, let me tell you one other thing, by the way, which you guys already know, but maybe the audience doesn't know. The most astounding thing to me from this, what is she, a divorce lawyer that they make into the U.S. attorney?
Insurance lawyer.
Insurance lawyer.
So
divorce insurance lawyer.
All insurance now.
Now she presents this rushed indictment to the grand jurors of 3 counts. The grand jurors refuse to indict on the 3rd count. Now, what does she do? Anybody that's ever been to law school should know this. Certainly anybody that's ever worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office should know this. If it's a different indictment, which it now is, you have to represent that indictment to the grand jury so they can approve that indictment. Does she do that? No. She just kind of scratches out count 3, and then she goes and she files this thing as if it were a grand jury indictment. The judge was not too excited about that one either, and that'll be another reason why he's going to blow it out. Right. What we really want to see, and again, I am agreeing with you guys before about that the press is not handling. We want to see that memo that under Siebert, because I guarantee you it's not 1 page. Yeah. It's not a couple of paragraphs. It's going to go through boom, 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 chapter and verse. Here's what we were presented. Here's what we looked at. And here's why we decided we're not even going to try to hand this to a grand jury, who we all know would indict a ham sandwich if you got a prosecutor there asking about it.
Hey, Steve, I have a quick question. Is it dismissed with prejudice or without prejudice?
I would say it's dismissed without prejudice, it seems to me.
But the statute would have run.
Does without mean?
Depends on the statute's going to be.
I can never remember.
It depends on the grounds in which he dismisses it.
Correct.
Yeah, he says it's
conduct, it'll be with prejudice, in my opinion.
But either way, they can't refile.
They can't because the statute is passed.
Correct.
So, you know, when you think about this,
wait a minute, Steve, I only know this in the civil context, so let me ask you this question. In the civil context, if a case has been filed, it tolls the statute of limitations during the pendency of that. So they've got like 48 hours, I think, on it. If it was dismissed, does it toll the statute for the period of time that the indictment is pending?
I've never had a case where that has occurred, so I'm not going to try to answer it, but I will have an answer for you shortly.
Thank you.
Hey, Bill, cue the short wave. I think this is where it kicks in that we were talking about
we
before.
We were debating this before you got on, Steve. The question was, your internet out was out, would you go to shortwave as a substitute? I said, they don't appreciate how much you've rejected technology. I think you go to smoke signals.
That's exactly, and you were 100% correct. It's like somebody who's been asking me, I've been having people asking me constantly, okay, you have a flip phone. When are you going to change? And I tell them never. And they go, look at me like I'm on, cloud nine with the Temptations.
You're doing fine.
Steve, you just love the flip phone? You just love it?
It's not a matter of I love it. I use it for the most ridiculous thing, to make and receive phone calls. But I mean,
actually, Steve, I was Steve Fishman for about 5 hours this week. I left my phone at home and I was meeting a friend for lunch. And I thought, well, I hope the plans hold out and I hope he doesn't change anything and need to text me or call. And I had a book with me because I had been at John King's. And I sat at the bar at Green Dot Stables and read a book for 30 minutes. And I felt so much better. And I thought I should be Steve Fishman more often. Just leave that shit at home. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
So,
what was what was the book?
Elmore Leonard. I'm taking a creative writing class this semester at Wayne. And one of my classmates was saying he has a hard time with dialogue. And I said, well, then you need to read some Elmore Leonard. And so I happened to pick up a modern library collection of 4 Elmore Leonard books in 1 volume. So I gave it to him. So
wow.
Very cool.
Yeah.
But by the way, one thing, I just kind of looked. I think I was right. I think the statute continues to run. It doesn't toll the statute like it does in state court or in a civil case.
All right.
So Smash the Numbers just said Luddites Unite, which of course saying it as a social media message is highly ironic, but we'll take it. Well, on the topic, and let's just get back to it. I mean, so we had MBS in Washington, and he was certainly feted. And there's a lot of questions about the kind of personal dealings that the Trump family has with Saudi Arabia, and this whole idea, a word that we heard a lot about in the first Trump administration, but we don't really hear about it so much, although it is still in the U.S. Constitution, emoluments. Does this word emoluments? I've corrected on the pronunciation, but is that word about as obsolete now as the subordinate clause to the Second Amendment, that no one talks about a well-regulated militia being the goal?
Corruption be an asset in this administration. I mean, the corruption is not hid. I mean, we know that the Trump family is making billions. We know that they're using insider information to make billions. We know that they're using relationships with the Saudis to make billions. The incestuous nature of this Trump administration with those who have money, both domestic and foreign, is terrifying. And so, I think this, the interests of America are subordinate to Trump's interest in himself. And that's what we're saying. And so a guy like MBS, who should be a pariah, who should not be feted here, is, because Trump doesn't give a shit. He's transactional. He's going to make money. Family's going to make money. Fuck everybody else. And that's, I think that's his actual attitude.
Well, I must say that I'm comforted by the selectivity of MAGA's Islamophobia, that they'll direct it toward Mayor-elect of New York City, Zoran Mamdani, but they will let MBS off the hook. So bravo to be selected. Barb.
I was just going to say the smirk on MBS's face when Trump deflected the question, because it was like, who cares? Yeah. Who cares about this guy that we cut up with a bone saw and recorded it? So
because he spoke out.
He has a friend in the White House. All the bad people in the world have a friend in the White
House. Does anyone remember or know what Khashoggi was working on as far as at that time? What was the news article?
I don't know. Didn't he contribute op-eds? I don't think
he did, but he was actually investigating Jared Kushner giving bribe money to MBS.
Oh, interesting.
Which is perfectly legal now.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess that's where he was courting controversy, as the president said regarding
this guy. A lot of people didn't like him.
Didn't like him. He's a bad guy.
Yeah, he's a bad guy.
What are you gonna do about it?
And Barb, to your point of the rather brutal murder and end to Mr. Khashoggi, things happen according to the president.
That's what it was. Things happen.
Yeah, shit happens. Right.
Can you imagine if someone were to dismiss that with Charlie Kirk and said, look, you know what, a lot of people don't like him, shit happens. They'd be like, oh my God, that's blasphemous. Wait
a minute, Allan, are you now quoting the widow Kirk?
I agree. I think I heard her say that too.
Yes.
Can we circle back? I mean, one of the we talked at the beginning of the show about Trump coming out and talking about the Democratic senators who reminded people in the military that they shouldn't obey illegal orders. The biggest problem from my perspective with that is it'll bring the crazies out. Trump saying these things to people will bring the crazy out. That's right. These people are treasonous. We've got to stop this. So I'm going to go kill some of these senators and members of the House. I mean, the risk that he creates with the way he talks is so great. And people just continue to ignore it.
Yeah. Ask anybody who's had their lives taken over by, death threats delivered via email, through, anonymizing surface.
And again, what remains astonishing is no one is stepping up, to take the chance. That's what's in this land, all the way up to.
Are there no Republican lawmakers that served in the military that could speak to this? I mean, here you have Arizona lawmaker Mark Kelly, who's been directly affected by this because his wife, former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, was actually shot. You have Senator from Michigan, Alyssa Slotkin, who is speaking out about this. But the very idea that this was only on one side of the political aisle and talking about it from the standpoint of very specifically that they were under no obligation to obey an illegal order.
Right.
Unless of course you're getting
Republicans. Rand Paul came out today and made a statement in support of them and talked about the fact that the real problem is that these outrageous comments will bring out the crazies to do something on their own.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, Bill. That I think Rand Paul's closest encounter with the military was watching Stripes. So so I don't know. I mean, it would be better if there was somebody who came from the military ranks who could speak about this, but such is the nature of what seems to be.
It'd be better if somebody stood up to Trump, and really that's what it would take. That's the problem.
But you got to break in that ecosystem of Trump world. You got to break in that MAGA ecosystem, and until we do that, that message is never going to be heard. I mean, they're going to believe that these Democratic senators and congressmen are actually advocating to break lawful orders. I mean, they're going to admit this is what Trump does. He's going to lie and misrepresent and repeat and repeat and repeat. So until that is broken into that ecosystem, and it's like, hey, that's what there's, it's unlawful orders, and doesn't matter.
I mean, just to give you an example, the New York Post doesn't even have this on their page about Trump threatening them. It's just not even there. So if that's the kind of hive in which they're getting their news, Joel, it's non-existent. Yeah,
right.
I think the message ultimately too is 4 years. At the end of 4 years, if Trump orders the military to arrest anyone who tries to kick him out of the White House, they're going to have to make a decision. Am I going to do something illegal, or am I going to follow the Constitution? So,
well, as part of my sociological dig of listening to AM radio, I was coming back from somewhere yesterday and heard Mitch Albom discussing this very topic, and Mitch stroked his long prominent jaw and said, it seems to me that if you open this door, you're not gonna have a military anymore. So I mean, he's and of course then it's like they all get this fucking memo that goes out in the morning. This is how you respond to this particular talking point. And it's like, when has Trump ever given an illegal order? And of course, my first thought wasn't he talking about that in the 2020 protests that year? Wasn't he asking Mark Milley or somebody why they couldn't shoot people? Can we just shoot them? Yeah. Shoot them in the knee, maybe? I
have an answer to the question: how many judges have overturned a number of his orders, including most recently sending troops into Washington, D.C.?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
But,
so
but
this is talk radio.
Just to respond to one of our viewers, yes, Vice President J.D. Vance did enlist in the Marine Corps, serve for 4 years as a military journalist.
Oh, boy. Ooh, yeah. He was in the shit, man.
Yeah.
He was in
He's
the
got
shit.
Stories.
Yeah, he was in country. He was
a blind item.
Doesn't that make him Private Joker? From
Full Metal Jacket? In bars and having drinks and dinner to get information.
Yeah, like Allan.
Boy. Hey, Allan, let's take a commercial break right now.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
By the way, he's got a nice new commercial on TV where he's out in the field talking to regular folks. So maybe we'll. No, Sabri. Eric Sabri.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I think that Vance. I think Vance likes to stay on the couch, if you know what I mean.
Wow.
So it looks like the president is having some more trouble with the judiciary. A federal court down in Texas has blocked, actually not Texas, I stand corrected, the Fifth Circuit, which is based in New Orleans, Court of Appeals, has blocked the Texas gerrymandering plan for the 2026 midterm elections. So there is, I suppose, some comfort in the judiciary holding true, especially one as conservative and seemingly as Trump-philic as the fifth. But I'm sure that this is going to Trump-ophilic. Okay, how's that?
I'm admiring your neologism. That's a good one.
But I mean, this is almost certainly going to be tossed up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and I'm sure that they'll go ahead and take the case. Where do you see this one going? Yeah, Bill.
This is so exciting to me because I've always believed that what they did in Texas was illegal. They did it legally in California with the ballot proposal. So here's a potential if Texas gets struck down and California stays intact, they're going to have a hell of a time maintaining the majority in the House. I mean, their misstep here, their arrogance here could really cost them. And it'll be interesting to see if it happens. It's my hope.
Okay. I mean, but so what you're talking about then, Bill, is that I guess the case that'll go up to the Supreme Court will involve looking probably at the California situation and the Texas situation?
No, I think it will only involve the Texas situation. I mean, I don't know how you dispute the ballot proposal in California. Therefore, it will remain intact. And California will probably add 5 Democratic seats to in Congress. But if the Texas, remember, they did that in response to what Texas did. And if the Texas proposal gets stricken, that means that balance stays in power, and it'll be +5 for the Democrats. And this was really Republican arrogance. I mean, they came right out. This is classic Trump. I'm not sure what that's about. I wouldn't.
Just don't post that stuff.
But more importantly, I think that his arrogance could turn all of this around and secure a Democratic House. So it'll be very interesting.
Well, Nancy, I mean, you're a former denizen and doyen of Indiana, and it looks like Indiana is also in play when it comes to moving the.
How could they get more Republicans out of Indiana? I mean, the state is as red as it can be. It's like poor little Indianapolis, and maybe Gary manages to hang on to like one or two, Democrats. But anyway, go ahead, finish your question.
I mean, where do you see these developments going with Indiana? Are they going to run out of gas and simply not do anything?
I think they're going to run out of gas. I mean, I was listening to yet another, like I said, my spelunking into the dank caves of the right wing. I was listening to the Charlie Kirk show yesterday, and they were talking about this, and they were saying, they're going to primary these guys. Indiana is very, very conservative, but it's also they don't swallow bullshit easily. And so I think they would probably, I have a feeling this is going to fizzle, but this is only a gut feeling. It's not something I've really dived into. I have a friend who's working on a project. This is how pathetic the Democratic Party is in Indiana. He's working on a project to get people to run as independents in Indiana because because only Republicans can get elected. But if an independent comes along who seems pretty Republican, but maybe has, some moral qualms with the president or something else, they might be able to get elected. So that's where we are there. I don't think I haven't, like I said, it's just a feeling, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Somebody using the term slapdash. That's pretty awesome.
I love that.
Alexander Delaco saying, Bill, you keep saying arrogance talking about the Texas lawmakers. The correct term is ignorance. It was so slapdash and rushed that they didn't think it through.
And I want to make it clear, I don't disagree with Alexander on that. I think that I may not have been clear. I was talking about Trump's arrogance in pushing the Texas legislature to do this. I don't disagree with you, Alexander. It was ignorance on the part of the Texas legislators, or it was whatever it is that causes MAGA people to follow blindly despite the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Allan, you follow Hamtramck politics very close to the point where if you were to tell them that you were a Tamimi Jew, they might actually adopt you. The Tamimi of
what's a Tamimi Jew?
So the Tamimi are the Jewish community from Yemen that goes all the way back to the Queen of Sheba.
Oh, like your sister-in-law. Don't you have is Yemeni? Yeah, exactly. So,
well, you know what? I think that you could actually, at that point, why don't you get a Costco card with her, and that'll let you into the club. So
her favorite term, by the way, is "I hang you."
I hang you.
So it looks like probably one of the closest races in the history, certainly of Hamtramck and maybe of the world, was decided in this 2 square mile little enclave and hamlet of the Metro Detroit area, where Wayne County canvassers have now certified the election, allowing Adam Al-Harbi and his result to stand against Muhit Mahmoud by a margin of, you got it, fewer people than on this show right now. 6 votes.
Wow. And they decided they could not count some ballots that were found in, was it the clerk's office?
In the clerk's office. There were like 37 votes that were there. So Allan.
Oh, go ahead, Allan.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I mean, Hamtramck is just a lot of interesting things happening. I mean, the mayor, who's been up for ambassadorship for Kuwait, is probably not going to may not even get out of committee for a vote in the Senate. The police chief, who was fired for legitimate, well, he was actually, they ordered him fired, and then there was some technicalities, so he resigned, got I think a 5-month severance, I can't remember. But now he's being considered, he's a former New York City cop, an official there, and now he's being considered by the Mamdani administration to work for them. So Hamtramck is just a lot of shit happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've always known that the Yemeni community of Hamtramck has dreamt of the bright lights in big city of New York. But the idea that Jamil al-Taheri, I guess as they say, you really can go back home. And you're right that it looks like under the Mamdani administration, he might have a role there. By the way, there are two massive communities that are tied to Hamtramck that are in the New York City area. One is the Yemeni community, and the other is the Bangladeshi community. So there is actually quite a lot of cross-pollination, and I can't wait for Hamtramck to reach out and adopt New York as its sister city, because I think that is just waiting to be happened. But speaking of Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani, it looks like he's on his way to the nation's capital to a meeting in the White House with none other than President Trump himself.
Wow.
I think it's pretty safe to say that part of Mamdani's success was the fact that he was, even though not on the ballot, running against the president. And it seems as though the president has wasted no time through threats of withholding federal funding, letting loose the National Guard on the streets of New York, and other ways, looked at Mamdani as his latest political foil. So what do you think is going to come out of the meeting today, other than whatever's been left over from the MBS banquet to serve as snacks?
It's on TV. I just hope it's on TV. I hope it's a made-for-TV moment because Trump loves those moments. I just, but I don't, but I would love it if it's on TV.
I know.
You have cards. You don't have cards. I want to see Trump.
But he's going to have his posse in there with him. JD Vance, all the people around, so they can help him throw pot shots and all that. But I thought he said he was going to take. I thought he said he would just take over New York. If he had won. So
there's also that new addition on top of the right above the door, which is like a little ledge. I think Miller sits there as a gargoyle during some of these meetings. So
he puts on a gold
attractive.
Yeah. Up there.
Yeah, Steve.
This is a question for you guys. Why are either of them doing this? When I saw that this was happening, I was like scratching my head.
That's a good question.
Right? You tell us from a PR stand. I mean, why are they doing this? Either of them.
I think
you answered the question right there from that PR standpoint. And again, when you look at it, at the end of the day, regardless, like you just said, we know he's just coming up 1 year of being president. If God's willing, he'll be president for the next 3 years. No matter how wacky he is, you still want a little access. You have to.
True.
I'll say this. I think maybe part of the thought is that if Mamdani goes there and says, look, I'm a human being. I'm not just this image that you talk about and trying to humanize it. More like I see reporters sometimes, they take pot shots at politicians and they never, meet them in person. They're afraid to talk to them in person and stuff like that. So I think, he's going into the bully's den and he's standing up to a bully and, look, Trump's going to be an asshole about it, but at least I think he's trying to stand up to the bully and say, I'm not afraid of your bullshit. Right. Let's talk. So,
and this is New York. You got it. He has to. He has to.
I think that there's a couple of things that Mamdani has going for him coming into this. First of all, I don't think he's got anything to lose.
Right.
The other is a couple of major talking points are how many MAGA actually voted for Mamdani. I think he's got the analytics of that. The other is that it's actually Mamdani that introduced a talking point that the White House is now using quite industriously, and that is affordability. Mamdani's been talking about affordability in New York City throughout his entire campaign, and only now is it something that you're hearing House Speaker Mike Johnson and the president and Carolyn Levitt in the press office talking about. So I think that Mamdani could really leverage this and actually thank Trump for picking up on what Mamdani's been talking about and bringing it to the national level. Barb.
Right. And the difference is Mamdani means it, and Trump and Levin and all of them are just going, because that's.
Well, wait, Barb, that's not fair. They're going to come out with their health care plan any day now.
Can
we have Francis's post back up? This is brilliant. Mamdani should bring gifts: gold bust of Roy Cohn, Coke spoon from Studio 54, stiletto heeled shoes worn by a score stripper. That is brilliant. The only thing missing from that list, Francis, is a cocktail napkin from Sparks, which was the steakhouse where Paul Castellano was gunned down in broad daylight by somebody from John Gotti.
Yep.
All family debts were settled.
There you go.
I've settled all the
Who ate all the gabagool?
No more gabagool.
But Francis, that list of New York Kana, since it's not Americana, is absolutely brilliant. Top marks. You've really been following it. Yeah. So speaking of the Mamdani effect, we've got now what seems to be the emboldenment of people running for broader office around the country, looking at the midterms. One being, of course, for U.S. Senate to replace Gary Peters. On the Democratic side, Abdul Al-Sayed, having received this week the endorsement of former Congressman Andy Levin. And it looks like from the campaign rhetoric and the deluge of ads that I seem to be getting from both Haley Stevens as well as from Abdul Al-Sayed, it seems as though they really are talking about this being a referendum on AIPAC, the American Israel Political or Public Affairs Council. So is that really what's going on here?
Well,
and actually, quite frankly, I mean, for Michiganders, what percentage really look at this as being a referendum on AIPAC, or is this just a niche issue? Bill.
Well, I want to comment on a couple different levels. One, I admire Andy Levin a lot. The fact of the matter is that most people, and I was hoping Ed would be on the show today, most people don't believe that Saeed has a chance of getting elected, which is too bad, in my opinion. But I think Andy made a decision to follow his heart and not necessarily his political instincts. And I admire people in his position who can do it. Number two, I think that this whole AIPAC thing is really going to end up. What was that?
Look at you.
Wow.
Is
it birthday? You know we got to.
It is now.
I think it's going to help Mallory Morrow, because I think that this battle between the two of them boosts her. But I don't think that we've seen all the candidates who are ultimately going to be running for the seat. I think that, I think Haley Stevens' campaign has been not well received by the Democratic power brokers, and they're very disappointed in her. I think Morrow's probably done better than people thought that she would. And I think that these two battling are going to help Mallory, but I think somebody else is going to come out in this race.
Yeah, who?
I can give you half a dozen names that I'm not going to do because I don't want to get in trouble with anybody. But there are people who could come out. Look, if there was a decision, if Whitmer decided, you know what, I'm not going to get the nomination for president, so I'm going to do this, she could walk into the seat.
Yeah, I think she's probably the only one that could probably walk in.
Bill.
They gotta get money. It takes a lot of money. And
okay, you want another name? I'll rue the day because I'm gonna get shit from people for this one. But if somebody went to Duggan and said, look, the polls show that you can only be a spoiler and you're not going to get the nomination, come back and be a Democrat and run for the Senate. He could get that seat.
Bill, are any of the other people that you won't name dressed like me today and on this show?
Allan? No.
You think about running?
Bill.
What's that?
You think about running? I'll vote.
There are three of you like Bill. So.
Yeah, Allan.
I mean, I think it's interesting. Andy Levin lost to Haley Stevens, got killed in the primary in 2022, largely because of AIPAC and other Jewish groups who supported Haley Stevens and were critical of Andy Levin's criticism of Israel. So I don't know if he's gotten back in and he has some resentment for AIPAC. I mean, it's going to be a little. AIPAC may have a different impact because that was a congressional race. This is a statewide race, which is going to include some of the Arab and Muslims in Michigan. So it may have
an awful lot of Gentiles too. So,
but it's a lot of money.
But also the Jews.
That's what happened to Andy in the primary, and Haley, it was the money.
Yeah, she killed her. She killed about 20 points in the primary, which was just and actually just to plug Ed Sarpolus, he predicted that in his poll, and the Levin people called me up and said that's bullshit, and Ed Sarpolus is bullshit, and it was by 20 points. But
but look, I mean, it wasn't just the money they pumped into Stephen's race, which was substantial. It was the dark money. Very few people have ever seen that kind of dark money in these primary races going after Andy. I mean, they vilified the shit out of the poor guy.
Yeah. Because it takes that, you're right, that money, and then you got to come back with that strong messaging. You got to have both of those, but money matters. But that messaging, even to combat that, but you just didn't have that strategy.
And then the question really becomes with the Gaza war allegedly over, but not in some ways not, but yes, in other ways.
Some ways not. Some ways not.
Well, I'm just saying that it's still.
Look, they're having trouble finding more things to blow up, but they're still trying.
But I'm saying that it's not. The question is, how big of an issue is the Israeli-Gaza war going to be in 2026? I don't know. Maybe you have a better insight into that.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting now that looking at, there's been some really good reporting on more broadly, like Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson and all, and the cleavage within the Republican Party and within MAGA about the idea of America and its relationship with foreign countries, particularly with Israel, and how that's driving a wedge there. And so I guess it then shows that the kind of unity that had been part of the Republican agenda now and has been cultivated at least under Trump may not last, certainly till 2028, and may actually be in jeopardy in 2026 in the midterms. So speaking of people moving away, what's this that I hear that Michigan might actually leave the Big Ten if a private equity firm buys a minority stake in the Big Ten? Steve, you must know something about this.
I know that if the University of Michigan stayed in the Big Ten after some private equity assholes buy a stake in the conference, then I wouldn't abandon them, obviously. I mean, my father and I both played there, but I agree with them 5,000%. I don't think they're the only school that's saying that, personally. I haven't seen what Ohio State's saying about it, but I don't even think Michigan State would support that. One would hope. They need the dough, though.
Not even Michigan State. Jesus, Steve, come on.
I know. The disrespect to the Spartans here, Steve.
I don't think he was using build in fairness even as an adverb. I think he was using it as an adjective.
I know.
Well, lastly, of course, and the next time our lovely audience sees us is going to be on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. And we have now heard that thanks to M&M's taking over the entertainment aspects of the Detroit Lions Thanksgiving game, Jack White is going to be playing the halftime show. Joel, you seem like you're pretty happy about this, and you're not going to dash to the bathroom for 15 minutes during the halftime show.
Detroit. It's such a great representation of Detroit, and he's such a great ambassador for the city. I'm glad he's having that forum, and he's wonderful. I mean, he's wonderful. He's a national treasure, man. His music is phenomenal, and I'm really excited to see it. And it's Detroit. It's like Eminem. It's Detroit. It's who we are. And he is a great ambassador. I love the guy.
You know, it reminds me.
No, I would have liked to see Eminem ask Kid Rock to do it and then turn off the power during halftime.
You had to go and spoil a good moment.
So speaking of which, Kid Rock has apparently said that he is canceling his shows in New York City in the upcoming year because he's not going to play in a communist city.
That's not true.
That's lost.
Right.
I'm sure the new mayor can just say thank you. Thank you.
Seriously, we're selling tickets anyway, big guys.
To clarify that, I think that was a false thing because he doesn't have any shows in New York City. New York.
Okay. Then I stand corrected.
Money doesn't make any sense.
It was some bullshit that was.
I was just gonna say.
Okay. Then I stand corrected. Maybe it was more aspirational on that. But no. I mean, think about some of the other moments that have given Detroit pride on the national stage. Remember the Chrysler 300 ad.
Sure.
That was a tremendous ad. So I think that. Now that of course Barb, we can't bring back the MC5 to play at Thanksgiving. That would have been pretty amazing.
Was
but
that
no,
a Chrysler 200, I think.
It was a 200. I think. Yeah. I'm sorry. I was giving you an extra.
Fact check.
No. It's okay. I was giving it an extra 100. I mean, some of us have not that I have an extra C note to throw around. But Joel, Jack White's induction speech at the Hall of Fame ceremony was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So, see, even Steve, who hasn't heard of Jack White, is nodding or hasn't heard his music.
I've never heard a song of his, but I know who he is, and I know what everybody thinks of him, and he is a great ambassador for this city. I agree with what Joel said, but no, I couldn't tell a tune. Did it come out after Purple Rain? I mean, I don't know.
For a guy that lives in Nashville now, he's a great.
I was just gonna say, I think he needs to move back before I'm ready to put
Steve, I can forgive you for not knowing that the president of the United States is about to invade Venezuela with the U.S. Army. But how can you not know the Seven Nation Army? I mean, it's not even a song. It's 6 notes.
You heard it in the crowd.
Every Michigan game they play.
Played at every Michigan game
you've been at, you've heard it.
Yeah.
The bright side. You've heard both those songs at every.
Is this when all the kids bounce up and down?
Yeah, the Killer song. Every
I had no idea what the song was. I just saw them bouncing up and down.
We're gonna have to pay attention next time. We're gonna have to pay attention.
The bouncing up and down is to that tune. I mean, next thing you know, an alien's going to land and go do 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 do, and you're not going to know what that is.
You're right. You're right. If he lands and starts singing "My Girl," I'll know what he's doing. But I want you guys to know. By the way, we went to Sexy Steak for dinner last Saturday night, and they had a singer, and then they had a guy playing a keyboard, and she was singing all the tunes that the young people know. We were with our kids, and they were all singing along, and I had never heard any of these songs before. So our server was a young woman, and as we got having a little more fun, and it got a little more Camus, and I said, "Could you ask her if she can sing My Girl?" And she went up there, and she must have said, "Who wants that?" Because all of a sudden our server pointed at me, like there's nobody else on the planet would. And she went ahead and sang, and she came down, and we sang harmony on My Girl.
That's a great moment.
Do you have a video, Steve?
And Steve, just for our Gentile audience, Camus is
wine. Camus is a Cabernet. It's a reasonably decent Cabernet. You know what I mean? It's also the name of my son and daughter-in-law's dog, which I gave him that name.
Okay. I thought I heard famous Camus, but that's a cookie. All right, Alan, let's go to the last segment.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
All right, Steve, we're going to start with you. Who's your schmuck?
I hate to really do this because technically it's a Donald Trump award, right? And he's not supposed to get it, but he's getting it, and that's because of the way he talked to those women. You guys have been able to tell, I'm sure, all the time I've been in this show. There's one thing I can't stand. It's men who behave like that. And I between those two incidents, particularly the one where he calls her Piggy, and he weighs 350 pounds, and he's calling somebody else Piggy. And you'd have thought maybe one of those journalists, when you guys were talking about how they did nothing, maybe they should have said, "Well, that's interesting, Mr. President. How much do you weigh?"
Right.
That ass.
Well, and did you see the picture of the woman? She looks like a size 8 if pops. I mean, she's maybe 100.
I think he was talking about her face or something, but you're right. She was pretty.
I can't stand that kind of behavior. And just because he did it twice, basically, he's my schmuck of the week, even though the goddamn trophy's named after him.
Yeah.
Well, what's really weird, Steve, is that he was photographed in the Oval Office with Portuguese international football superstar Cristiano Ronaldo, and he looks considerably shorter than Ronaldo, and Ronaldo's 6'2",
right?
And he claims to be 6'3". So is he the incredible shrinking president? Yeah.
And if you remember, he claimed he was 6'3", 215, and somebody on my Facebook, one of the athletes, put a picture of him with his fat gut like this. A guy who really is 6'3", 215, Lamar Jackson, the quarterback. They had a picture of him next to him, 6'3", 215, 6'3", 350, 6'3", 415.
There was the original lead-in when we did Schmuck of the Week.
And now it's time for Deadline Detroit's nominees for Schmuck of the Week.
There you go.
Very flattering picture.
That was great with the that's Craig Foley's voice, isn't
and
it?
that was and that was the only rule was it couldn't be Trump, but that's okay. We'll give Craig has left the building, so
and Joel and I aren't big on following rules we don't have to.
There you go.
Even if we do have to, we're still not big on those.
Okay.
So next week, Bill Nuremberg. All right, Beverly.
Okay, well, Steve got one. It was right on point with Trump and the insult and the bullying. I have two really, and it both deals with bullying. So good point, Steve. I agree totally on you. With the president of the United States continue to bully women with this pig statement. The other one is, and I'm sure you guys probably covered it, hopefully maybe last Friday or something, the unfortunate incident that still has most of decent people just really just feeling anguish of the mother in Chicago who was jumped on and attacked by middle school students like a savage beast, So my schmuck of the week is, of course, the parents of these middle-aged students who would attack a woman, a mom protecting her children, bullying. But more importantly, the individuals who walked by or drove by saw this attack being attacked on this mom by this massive beast of kids and didn't even call the police or try to intervene. So they are my schmucks of the week. Disgusting.
Yeah. That's a good one.
That's a good one. All right, Joel.
I'm going to go with Lindsay Halligan. It's one thing being incompetent and to be shameless and take a job that, unbelievably over your head. But my question is don't you reflect? Do you have any introspection at all? Do you ever look in the mirror and wonder, what am I doing? This is my legacy of my life. I only get this shot once and I'm going to live it this way. I mean, is there any existential question you ask yourself? This is your purpose? To advocate for lies, to advocate against, your oath to the Constitution. I mean, I wonder if there's ever a moment of crisis for these people, and if not, there's something else animating what's going on, and it's not a healthy thing. It's it's a pathology, and so I think she's my schmuck, but as a human being,
Joel,
I can sell that.
Have you seen a photograph of Lindsay Halligan?
Yeah,
you know what she looks like.
Yeah, she looks typical defense insurance lawyer looks like. I mean, really.
She is a type. A friend of mine first saw a picture of her and said, well, he certainly has a type. She's very, very pretty. She's got the Mar-a-Lago hair. When that woman looks in the mirror, all she's thinking about is, oh my God, I think I need my eye makeup. I mean, believe me, she does not have that much self-reflection. So,
but this Mar-a-Lago look, I mean, Kristi Noem and everybody else. I mean, it reminds me of what Jack Nicholson did to Jerry Hall in the first Batman movie. Treating them as like a living art, which turned out to be a distortion.
I mean, it's and the other thing is, if you have ever done your face like that, it takes a lot of time. I mean, Kristi Noem must get up at 4:00 in the morning to work out and keep her slender muscles and her big fake tits and everything looking good, and then do all the hair and the face and everything. That is
listen. When I was at the Doha debates last week and they did hair and makeup, that was the longest 3 minutes of my life. All right, Barb.
I have two this week. One of them is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. who said that migrants, the reason that beef prices were so high, and I just want to say, I bought a steak this week. I took out a small loan.
Unbelievable how expensive it is. I know.
I thought, you know what? I haven't done this in a while. It was delicious. I felt a little sick that I spent that much money on a piece of meat that was like. But anyway, he says that the problem is
put a
not.
bottle of Camus, then it's a party. So there you go.
I'm gonna have Bob look that up. Now I'm telling you, because he can get it for cheaper, Steve. He says that the migrants,
it's not cheaper than I get it. I can tell you that.
No. So the migrants are bringing in sick cows across the border. Now, these are people I want in my country. They're coming across, they're walking across entire countries that are very hot and dry.
And it's a lonesome dove cattle drive, too.
They're bringing fentanyl, they've got tuberculosis. And they're bringing sick cows. And it's like, do they get there and go, that one looks healthy? This one comes into the country, and they're lifting them over the wall, I guess. I want these people. These people belong in the United States of America. They've got the can-do that we need to make America great again.
Now, Barb, you do know that the cattle are making their way in with help. I think they're using a coyote.
Yeah. An international cattle drive. Go figure.
So real fast, my other one is the Michigan Republican gubernatorial candidates. Mike Cox says he is willing, able, and I will beat the shit out of them. Eric Nesbitt said he is going to take a blowtorch to state departments, burning down permits and regulations that delay growth and investment in the state. Ralph Rebant said Mike Duggan is a political transvestite.
What? What does that mean?
I don't even know what that means.
It means that he could change. He thinks he can just change his clothes and be someone else. He's voted Democratic, and I'm going to call him out on it.
He's got major Ozempic face, Duggan. He needs new clothes.
Yeah, I think he's got to get that out. Okay, Tom Leonard earned applause when he said he's going to be putting people in jail, particularly those in the education system, for transitioning a child's gender without their parents' consent. Now, there's one name missing from that list of Republican gubernatorial candidates, and that is the practically invisible at this point, John James, who did not bother showing up at all, which, considering these guys. So Michigan Republicans never letting me down.
Okay.
Ever.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Bill.
So my first, but I was going to do Netanyahu, who can't figure out a way to stop bombing Gaza. He's having harder and harder time finding targets. But I'm going to do something that I don't think anybody's ever done, and that's name one of our followers, Shank 228, as my schmuck of the week. Well, I think this is important. I mean, I think Alan quit putting some of these things up. Thank God. But this is a person who watches the show and says the following, that if Ethel Rosenberg can be put to death for allegedly committing treason, then almost every Democrat should face the death penalty. He goes a little further, I think it's a he, but I'm not sure, and suggests that Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, and Kash Patel, Susie Wise have to all be fired for not fighting the deep state and collaborating in this revolution, and suggests that we are all communist and should all go to China. Now, let me tell you something. I believe in healthy political debate. I looked this person up. He's connected to some weird radio station that I assume
he's like an incel. I mean, I would not give him that much attention.
I assume, Nancy, that he's one of the people that you're following on AM radio, because he or she is connected with WWIS radio in Wisconsin. And you're a coward. You don't put your real name on. You're not willing to actually debate, and you say nobody's listening to us. Well, you are. Yeah. And you're my schmuck of the week. By the way, you want to call me out? I use my real name, and I'm willing to pick you anytime, anywhere. I'm not afraid of guys like you.
Donald Trump was saying nobody listens to Jimmy Kimmel, and he's like, Kimmel says, but you are.
Well, I thought it's really appropriate that he's named Les Nessman. Wasn't there that episode with the turkeys in WKRP in Cincinnati?
He was the newsman, and he always had a Band-Aid somewhere visible where you could see it.
Yeah.
I love
There
that.
you go. There you go.
But he makes a good point, though, because this is what I think I sent you all an email after last week's show about Megyn Kelly. This is what Megyn Kelly is doing. It's like, now that she's got to buy her own health insurance out there on YouTube, it's like it's a race. It is a race to the bottom to like pay attention to me. I'll say something even crazier. So there you go. All right.
All right, Nancy.
Okay. Yep. I was afraid that Barb was going to steal my thunder but you failed to mention the other candidate for governor, Republican candidate for governor, Mr. Anthony Hudson, who is probably polling right now at about 0.1. But he was the one who announced that he was going to lead a march through Dearborn last week to expose Dearborn and all of this. And I think I think about these guys. It's like, you think you are qualified to be governor of the state of Michigan and you have never been to Dearborn? And it's like, I mean, I can imagine he's in his fever dreams. He hears oud music playing, and there are women everywhere. They're covered except for a tiny little slit for their eyes. And there's somebody driving a goat to be slaughtered or something. I mean, it's like, it's Dearborn.
Nancy, are you on Warren Avenue right now? I don't see you.
It's where you go to get the best hummus on the planet and some great juices. And then you go home to wherever you are. I mean, Bill McGraw lives in Dearborn, for Christ's sake. I mean, he's not exactly co-founder. Yes, Alan?
I was to say, I think this was AI. There was a video put out just days before that march, the anti-Sharia march, by this candidate saying, I spent 3 days in Dearborn talking to the store owners and they embraced me and it was great. So we're calling off.
Well, actually, I don't know if that was AI, but Michael Jackman did a story about it for Metro Times. But apparently he tried to call it off. He tried.
Oh, he did.
He actually went to Dearborn and he tried to call it off, but the ball had been set in motion. And
well, it was AI. It was Arab intelligence. So,
but there were 3 separate marches, and there were some fisticuffs, and apparently that guy that stood up at the Dearborn city council meeting last week and slurred, called them all kinds of names, and he got his lights punched out. So it was a happy ending.
He went on my Facebook page. He went down like a rock. It was fantastic.
It was. It was. Somebody just sucker punched him, and it was.
I think he's also running. I think he's running for Senate in Florida.
Oh,
that's not even a punchline. I mean, so anyway, all right, Alan.
I am going to go to so many good things about it, but I'm going to name Garland Gilchrist, Schmuck of the Week, for just being totally disingenuous. I mean, he's been critical of Israel, which is, that's the stance he wants to take. But then he goes bragging that I'm not going to take a dime from AIPAC. Well, you're not getting a dime from AIPAC. It was like when we did about 50 plus columns on Beaumont Hospital, changing really the narrative and shaming the CEO. I used to kid and say, I'm going to come out and make a statement saying we're not taking a dime of advertising from Beaumont. Well, guess what? Beaumont wasn't giving us any, and AIPAC isn't going to give Garland Gilchrist a dime. And so it's one thing to express your views on whatever it is on Israel and the policies and stuff, but then to brag and say, go around saying I'm not taking money from AIPAC. Well, you're not getting any. So that's
there you go.
All right. Well, I've got a few, and on that same vein regarding African Americans and Israel, lame duck mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, who goes to Jerusalem this week and says, quote, I wanted to come back here to Israel and let you know that I served you as the mayor. I want to continue to have the title that's more important to me than anything else. I'm your brother, end quote. So that kind of obsequy seemed kind of out of character, but that was followed in quick measure by a U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, who apparently had a meeting at the U.S. Embassy in Israel with none other than former convicted spy Jonathan J. Pollard, who back in the 1980s gave classified documents which jeopardized Americans serving overseas to Israel. He was then released and then actually went back to Israel on Sheldon and Miriam Adelson's private jet. But Huckabee is, and actually none other than, I think, Secretary of State or Defense Caspar Weinberger said back then when Pollard was convicted of espionage that he deserved to be convicted. And Weinberger knows a thing or two about breaking American laws, by the way. So, but that, I mean, to the point where it seemed as though the meeting was not even on the official calendar or on the record. So why Huckabee did that? But hot off the presses, I've got to say, holy man, or whatever you want to call him, Minister Franklin Graham, who has said, I quote on his Facebook, "In American politics right now, the Epstein files are a major focus. What many," and I'm sorry, my South Carolina accent is off. "What many are wanting is to see whether they can find any damaging information about President Donald J. Trump's connection to Jeffrey Epstein, who pleaded guilty to sex crimes and then later died in prison. They may find this inquiry to be a double-edged sword because they are likely many people not currently on the radar whose sins may come to light. But did you know that God has a file on each of us? The Epstein files are nothing compared to God's files. His file on us goes much deeper than just what we've said or done. He knows our thoughts, desires, and motives."
Action.
And it goes on and on and on.
Can we request a copy? I mean, can I get a copy up front? Say, hey, God, am I on some sort of like probation I'm not aware of? Can I get a copy?
My question is, does Franklin Graham see himself as Jesus washing his hands of sin, or Pontius Pilate washing his hands of Jesus's crucifixion here? Because I think the jury is still a little bit out. But for the fact that Franklin Graham elides what the victims and survivors have been through, and the fact that these are not just crimes but actually sins, yeah, my schmuck, hot off the presses. Alan,
you have to go ahead.
When I hear Caspar Weinberg's name, I always think of Friday night, the show they did, the skit show where they did Jew or Not a Jew. He claimed he wasn't Jewish, and they had him on, an actor, and they said, "Come on, Caspar Weinberger." And then they have Dr. Julius Irving. Julius Irving, come on, doctor. You can't say you're not Jewish. Anyway.
Why do these guys always have to use Trump's middle initial? President Donald J. Trump. Are they afraid that we're going to forget? We're getting confused with some other President Trump?
Well, the fact that Trump would always say Barack Hussein Obama.
Yeah.
And by the way, honorable mention to Natalie Green, who was working for Republican New Jersey Congressman Jeff Van Drew, who paid $500 allegedly for somebody to hack her up with anti-Trump stuff, including putting on her abdomen saying Trump whore. She has now been arrested for, of course,
filing
false reports. So there we go. I really wonder what kind of plastic surgery is going to get that off her abdomen, but why should I?
All right.
Maybe that's it. Anyway, thank you for another great episode of the week that was. Thank you, Joel Sklar. Thank you, Bill Seikaly. Thank you, Steve Fishman. Thank you, Beverly Watts. Thank you, Barb Ingalls. Thank you, Nancy Derringer. And before, of course, our last word by Allan Lengel from me and on behalf of everyone, have an awesome Thanksgiving next week, folks. Yes. Alan, last words.
Drive home safely. Go Lions.
All right. And go Lions.
Big game.